So good evening and welcome everybody to Marin Women's Political Action Committee's Candidates Forum. I'm Michelle Barney and I'll be the moderator tonight. I'm the chair of our endorsement committee. I would like to introduce other members of our endorsement committee that are here tonight. We have Gina Brewer, who is also the president of our organization. Frida Zolan. Frida, raise your hand. Tamara Hall, Greg Brockbank, and Jeannie Friedel. Your time is greatly appreciated. They help read and vet the questionnaires that we receive from the candidates, so the time isn't just spent tonight. We have a lot of preparations that we do and meetings that we have beforehand. I want to welcome our candidates in attendance tonight and thank them for joining us. We will be hearing candidates from the following races: College of Marin Board of Trustees, North Marin Water District, Las Galinas Sanitary District, the Marin Healthcare District, and the Marin Municipal Water District, Divisions 2 and 4. Our format for the evening is one in which each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement and introductory, followed by questions from the audience, which will be posed by our 3 endorsement committee panelists. Frida Zolan and Vida Flores will be our timekeepers this evening. Raise your hands. Thank you very much for your time. They will keep us in line time-wise. For anyone who wishes to ask candidates a question, please fill out the index cards, which will be passed around by Greg Brockbank, one of our long-term members and supporters. Thank you, Greg. Panel will try to address as many questions as possible within the time limits. As you know, we have, if you look at the agenda, we do have a lot of candidates. We try and squeeze in as many as we can. So keep them as succinct as possible so our panelists can ask them and give the candidates enough time to answer the questions appropriately. At the end of the forum, MWPAC members will caucus. This is open to MWPAC members only, so non-members and candidates will be asked to step outside while we do the caucus. The members will then vote, and we will count the ballots and announce the results of the vote at the end of the evening. For members who have to leave before the caucus and candidates who are MWPAC members, please turn your ballots to Greg Brockbank, who will be collecting them. You will be voting to recommend male candidates and endorse female candidates. This is just something that our organization does. If you do not want to vote, we have a ballot that includes all of the races. If you feel that you don't have enough information about a particular race or the candidates running, you can elect to abstain from that particular race, and that vote won't be counted. If you do want to vote for no endorsement, let's say you're not crazy about either of the candidates, you can choose no endorsement or recommendation, and you can have your vote counted. I highly recommend that MWPAC members stay to hear all of the candidates, to give them your full consideration when voting. Again, thank you to the candidates, members, and guests for coming this evening. As many of you might know, the law just changed to sort of bundle all of the races every 2 years. So this has been a real conundrum for us because we usually, seek endorsements in many races, including some of the very important school board races, other sanitary districts, water districts, and things like that. So this has been a real conundrum for us because people have asked for an endorsement. So what we decided to do, in this case, we will have a second endorsement night. We didn't want to announce it before this night because we did not want to confuse people. So the second endorsement night, I am now announcing here and now, is going to be September 24th, and we will be covering a lot of those other races. So Carol Nelson, Carol, raise your hand, is the person who sends out our emails to our members, and so you will be receiving an email notice about that. It's an unfortunate situation that we have to do this. We never had this challenge before. So anyway, just want to let you know. Okay, so why don't we start now with the candidates from College of Marin Board of Trustees. We have Suzanne Brown-Crow, Diana Conti, and Wandine Trainer. Note that we send out invitations. Oh, please, go ahead. And just press the push button to get the green light, but as I have to tell everybody, please do not move the stem of the microphone. It honestly doesn't matter. The way it is right now would be fine. We do invite all candidates that are up for a particular race, and we give everybody plenty of email notice, and some either don't choose to attend or seek our endorsement. So there are more candidates running this particular race. I sent out 3 different emails at different times, and so some people chose not to seek our endorsement, so that's why we have 3 tonight. If only on the green, if they're green, so push the little push button, and remember not to touch the stem. And if you want to, they really are very, very clear. So if you want to get a little bit clearer, you can push your mouth closer to the microphone. Okay, so we have Suzanne Brown-Crow. Okay. Raise your hand. Wandine Trainer and Diana Conti. Thank you. And once again, if you have questions for this race, please give them to Greg. How many seats are up for that? There are 3 seats. And it's also on the ballot, too.
Okay.
Okay, panelists.
Don't they start with an opening statement
Yes.
Yes.
for 1 minute or 2?
Why don't we start with going my left to right, 2 minutes, Diana, and pay attention to the cards, letting you know how many minutes you have left. We have them in yellow and red for stop this time. Diana?
I'm Diana Conti, and as a longtime member of WPAC, I've had the pleasure of working with many of you. I had a clear vision when you first elected me to the College of Marin Board in 2009. And after a lot of hard work, our house is in order. Now, every initiative I wanted to see implemented is fully becoming realized. 13,000 students, including 1,500 high school students who are co-enrolled for college credit, beautiful campuses that are equipped for today's educational technology, win-win staff contracts, a new vision for IVC, and that campus is finally being revitalized. Strong financial base and multi-year fiscal planning. Partnerships with businesses such as Kaiser for career technical education. $2.3 million raised from donations and contracts, and 60% of students receive financial aid. Bachelor degrees soon to be offered in partnership with Sonoma State. A productive board that works effectively with the community. I stand by my track record as a trustee and draw on my expertise as a longtime nonprofit CEO. I'm excited for our future and dedicated to making sure that COM students get everything they need for success well into the future. I ask for your endorsement and your vote.
Wandine?
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and seek your endorsement of the Marin Women's PAC tonight, and special thanks to the Endorsement Committee. At a time when our national politics is a constant source of tension and ugliness, a simple stroll through either of College of Marin's campuses quickly reminds me of why I am involved in politics in the first place. It's the people. Real people with names and families and dreams, struggles and determination. I can't think of an elected office where one can have such a direct effect with people at such a critical point in their life than a community college trustee. As someone driven to make a world a better place for everyone, it is a dream job. I am proud of the leadership I have provided in stirring, promoting, and guiding the College of Marin's transformation over the past decade, and I have the skills, experience, and common sense to lead College of Marin into the next decade. I grew up in Marin. I've been practicing law in the county for over 3 decades. I've served on several boards, and I am past president of 10,000 Degrees, Marin County Bar Association, Marin Legal Aid, and Planned Parenthood of Marin. Before law school, I was a community organizer for a self-help housing project as a volunteer in service to America. I got involved with Planned Parenthood by providing pro bono legal services in the construction of the San Rafael Clinic. It remains critical for Planned Parenthood to have safe and secure clinic space, and I am proud that the clinic at 2H Street is still actively serving all who come to seek its services. When I started serving as College of Marin trustee, I was driven that the thought of College of Marin as one of our greatest community assets, yet it needed serious attention. 20 years later, I'm still driven by that idea, and I'm proud that College of Marin is recognized as a community gem, and it is indeed a place where lives change. I'm honored to have the endorsement of Jared Huffman, Lynn Woolsey, Mike McGuire, all the Board of Supervisors, and many others, including retired Judge Faye Diopol. And I'm also proud of the endorsement of the Marin Democrats and the North Bay Labor Council. I would be honored to have the endorsement of the Marin Women's PAC, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Suzanne?
Good evening. I suppose many of you who know me here are saying, what is she doing running for the College Board? And I have to admit that I didn't see it happening myself. But the truth is, I'm excited about the opportunity to be part of this vibrant place that plays such an important part in our community college. I've been knocking on doors for a couple of weeks, and I can't tell you how many times I have heard, oh, I started my college degree there. It was fantastic. Or, my high schooler is taking a class there. It's the first time he's gotten excited about learning. Or Lou, who I see every day when I'm out walking my dog, who can't wait to tell me about his jazz class. We are lucky to have this gem. Times are changing. Not that long ago, a person would get a degree or training that she needed and would work in that area forever. Nowadays, companies downsize, or jobs are automated out of existence, or heaven forbid you should take a few years off to stay with small children or elderly parents. Suddenly, you need new skills and education or for a new job. This huge shift impacts how our college must plan for the education necessary to keep up with the job market, the formats in which to offer the courses, and how they must accommodate students with families and jobs. Because the College of Marin is smaller and more flexible than four-year institutions, it's in a great position to respond to our rapidly changing world. But our college's best advantage is the connections it has developed with the community and to local employers who need employees in new and different positions with new and different skills. The college has become a genuine partner with our community, with feeder school districts and employers. So it's our responsibility to ensure our college successfully prepares for the amazing future ahead. I have been described as fearlessly optimistic, and I suppose that is true. I know I am optimistic about the future of College of Marin. I'm asking for your endorsement so that I can be one of the 7 voices on the Board of Trustees to help guide our college into the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Some of this has been referred to, but going forward, what should the board and administrators do to keep the college healthy and primed to meet future challenges? And what are those challenges? Start with Diana.
The biggest challenge, I think, is continuing the forward momentum that we have. We've done a really good job with financial planning and our strong financial base. We are set to very soon have our pension debt paid off. We've already eliminated the debt for employee health benefits. I think that one of the biggest challenges really is what's going on in the world right now and the affordability of colleges. Community colleges used to be free. It's now $46 a unit. We have a number of students, a great number of students who need a lot of support, and we are giving them that support. But more and more, I think the biggest challenge really has to do with what happens with income inequality. It's the discrimination that our immigrant students are facing, and students of color. and low-income students. And we have a lot of programs in place, like lots of them in place to serve those students so they have a better chance for success. And I think there's a lot we can do in terms of innovative technologies. There's a lot we can do in terms of better partnerships with businesses.
Sorry,
you
the
can
answers
take
are 1 minute, just because we have so many candidates, I'm so sorry.
Oh, we could
Thank
go
you.
on all night.
Wendy?
I know.
I heard the challenges. What was the first part of the question?
What should the board and administrators do to keep the college healthy and primed to meet future challenges? And what are those challenges?
Well, we'd start by getting the three of us elected. But I think that the reality is it takes bright, dedicated volunteers that are willing to serve on the board and make sure that that guiding light is provided. I think recognizing we only have a minute, I'll echo what Diana said relative to the pension. We recognize it's a fiscal challenge for all public agencies, and I think we've probably been at the forefront of problem solving. And I will honestly say that I think one of the biggest challenges is housing and the lack of affordable housing in the county, because we cannot afford to not deal with it. And the fact of the matter is that we are not going to get the best and the brightest doctors, lawyers, teachers, classified. They're not going to come here and work, and they're certainly not going to be committed to working here unless we address that issue. So I do see it as a large community issue that we need to address, and it certainly is impacted in the College of Marin at the present because people are not going to stay. And most teachers are not staying for tenure in the K-12 schools because they can find something closer to home. Thank you.
She just stole my biggest statement, but we'll go from there. The biggest thing that I can see right now in terms of what we can do is the board is currently on their working on their strategic plan to try to specify which areas they're going to concentrate on in the future. They have done an awesome job. You don't believe how in the last 5 years they have put the financial house in order. They've gone from having an A- bond rating 5 years ago to a AAA now. And they can sell their bonds out in 11 minutes. It's just insane. It is beautiful to watch the construction that is coming. They are making the place, one of the things we want to think about in the future is how we continue to attract the K through 12 students and those who are returning. And the beauty, first of all, there's the natural beauty of the campuses, but the buildings that they are putting in place are so functionally usable and so appealing that's going to pull more kids in. I think that they've been on a great track, and with the strategic planning, they're just going to have to continue the way they're going. Thank you.
Hello. Don't touch, sorry. What needs to be changed in the next 2 years within College of Marin?
Starting with Wendy.
Starting with Wendy.
Wendy.
What needs to be changed?
You're not starting time yet, right?
Do we get thinking time?
Yeah.
I'm
could we
sorry,
caucus?
it's such a challenge.
Yeah, or maybe we could just caucus
You
them.
have about 7 minutes left, so how many questions do you want to
Okay,
answer? That's really what it comes down
Can you say
to.
the question again, please?
Next, what should be changed?
What
in the
needs to
next
be
2 years?
changed in the next 2 years?
Well, I think change is good. Change in terms of innovation. I think change in terms of what the board can do is really provide the leadership for, as Suzanne mentioned, we're in the beginning stages of our new strategic plan and educational master plan. And I think that being able to raise the questions like I mentioned about housing, also being able to address some of the issues relative to seniors in this community, and I mentioned it, recent strategic planning discussion that we needed to be looking at certificates for in-home care. And that the same way that we work with early childhood education, we need to be looking at what needs to be the skill set for people that we're bringing into our parents' homes to take care of them. I think there's some real need for innovation in terms of the businesses, and we use our advisory committees to do that as well. And I think that's the type of change that we're going to be seeing, closer connection with what the business needs are. And being able to be responsive to them. Thank you.
I think that's one of the things I was talking about in my opening statement, is that the college has worked on developing a really close relationship with the community, both with the feeder schools and with the businesses. And as I said, with the world changing the way it is, and business is changing so rapidly, jobs are changing, and there needs to be a lot of input a lot of give and take with those businesses to try to determine exactly what the college needs to offer. They are greatly expanding the number of not college degrees as such, but the technical degrees. And I think that that's going to be a real push for the future, what we do with that. I love the idea of getting skill sets for in-home care for our elderly. I think that's something that's really important. But mostly it's just staying in touch. I think that the biggest thing actually that we need to do in the 2 years is communicate a little, even more with the community at large, so that we make sure that we're providing what the community needs.
Diana?
My turn. Well, I will first note that one thing that I'm very much appreciating with our candidate cohort here is that there's so much to talk about that I can't get it all out in 1 minute, but these guys are getting their piece out. So we were able to build on each other, and that feels really good, and I think it's very beneficial for us. So ditto to everything that's been said, and I would add 3 things. One is housing. We have a feasibility study that's, we'll have the first phase done in December. We're actively looking at employee housing on IVC and other places. Continuing the revitalization of IVC is the second thing, and that includes getting transfer courses, community education, and career technical education all on that campus. And the third thing is that is continuing to build additional partnerships with businesses. We've got virtual reality, we've got Kaiser, we've got a lot of other ones we need to really grow that.
Thank you.
Not in time.
Suzanne starts first this one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is from the audience, 2-part question. How much of your bond was spent on Novato, which you may not know?
I don't know the
But
answer to
what
that.
is your vision for the Novato campus?
I will tell you that I don't know how much of the second bond was spent or is planning to be spent in Novato. I know there was a general feeling that that there was not sufficient amount, but the vision that is coming with the IVC now is wonderful. The commitment to the new aquatic center, I think, is going to really get the community involved, the aquatics are such a way that you get the kids out there. And once the kids get out there and can see the IVC for what it is, I think you'll get increased attendance there. I'm not, the plans for the buildings that are in IVC are gorgeous. They're well thought out, they're planned for the future, and I think that the Novato community is going to be especially happy with what is developed there. And it is one of the reasons that I'm running, is that Novato can have a voice on the Board of Trustees in the future.
Diana?
I'm going to take a wild stab at it. I think it's about 85 million for that campus. It's a smaller amount than for the other campuses, but it's a much smaller enrollment at that campus. And it was really based on doing a whole facilities assessment for both campuses that we came up with that. IVC, we have, the first phase of what's happening has to do with improving the envelope on all the current classrooms. So they're not gonna get moldy and all that kind of, and have dry rot anymore. And we have upgraded all of the classrooms for technology and greater efficiency. And the next is the things that we're doing that really turn the campus into a community hub, and will bring people onto that campus, and we think that will go a long way towards revitalizing it. So we have the Jonas Community Center that's done in collaboration with Novato Rotary, and we have the Miwok Swim and Aquatic Center. So it will continue to be the only 50-meter pool in the county, and it's going to be amazing, and it's also a fitness center. So we're seeing this whole hub of people coming in.
It's amazing how strong that red flag is.
It is. It's
A lot of
good thing
power
it's
there.
out of the-
Okay, bond in Novato. I'll punt as well, because I know that we did actually, I think we spent more than 85, but we had approximately 260, and my recollection is that it was much larger than the first bond, and I know that we made a commitment because of our resolution that said that we would put a significant amount of the money into the Novato campus. But the exact dollar number, we'll have it for the next meeting. The vision for Novato, I think what we learned in the process is that in my time on the board, we've had several task force and different groups meeting to see what we would do for IVC. And there's been a sense of frustration after each that there's great ideas and nothing happens. And I think this time is different because we also did it in collaboration with Friends of IVC and other Novato leaders that basically said, we will support you and we will give you some lead to be able to take some initiatives that might be a little bit more controversial, and that there was a willingness for us to risk some dollars to be able to say we're going to try what we can. So thank you.
Okay, that's,
Unfortunately, that leads us at the end of this, the questions for this particular race. As I mentioned, I'm sorry, just
Thank
because
you
we have
very
so many
much.
candidates, but I appreciate, and hopefully you'll get a snapshot.
We could probably talk all night on
Yeah.
this stuff.
The candidates will, will be here afterwards, hopefully, while we are caucusing. So if anybody wants to get a card or find out more positions that they have, they can. Thank you. Next race that we're going to cover is the North Marin Water District. Do we have any representatives for Jim Grossi? No. Okay, so Jim is on the agenda. He's also on the ballot. However, unfortunately, he had a family medical emergency this evening. Usually, if we're given enough notice, we will allow candidates to have a representative come in and read a statement on their behalf. But without any kind of representative, any opportunity to have the candidate answer questions, unfortunately, we won't be able to consider him for a recommendation. Here for the candidates we do have is Rick Freitas and Tina McMillan. Come join us. Push the little button that says green and don't touch the stem. Thank you. There is water available if you'd like a little water. And why don't, when you get comfortable, Tina, why don't you give us an opening statement?
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the Marin Women's PAC and request your endorsement. This is my first time running for elected office. I chose to run for a seat on the North Marin Water District Board because I admire and respect both the board and the agency. My strength as a therapist and a business person is communication. I believe our local public agencies and boards are being asked to shift their focus to include a reciprocal dialogue with the community, to become active partners in addressing the water crisis, climate change, conservation, the cost of infrastructure and maintenance and improvement, and retention of staff and employees. I believe I can bring a much-needed voice to this conversation because in my experience, if you don't make public agencies transparent in their ability to communicate with the public when you do have a need, when you need to raise costs, when you need to talk about really strict restrictions on water use, the public becomes angry and frustrated because they believe they haven't been included in the process. Everything I see about North Marin Water District is incredible. They've got wonderful conservation programs. They have a staff that is so considerate, down to the guy that came out at Christmas and patched the leak in my water pipe so I wouldn't have to worry through the weekend about being able to use water. The board is the same way. It's one of the highest functioning boards right now in Novato, in my opinion. They're respectful, they're kind, and the difference in terms of meaning is that I can bring an ability to speak to stakeholders and community members. Thank you.
Rick?
First, I want to thank the Marin Women's PAC for allowing me to speak tonight and for this function itself. It's very helpful. I just want to say that when I first ran for the board of directors of the North Marin Water District, which was 15 years ago, I ran as an environmentalist and promised to provide safe, clean, and reliable water to the customers of North Marin Water District. I have kept that pledge. my environmental ethic has remained, and it's a big part of my decision-making. And I'd like to go through some of the things that we've done at the Water District in the past 15 years that have advanced delivery of water, the safety of water, and customer relations. First off is water quality. About 16 years ago, we built a new filtration plant at Stafford Lake, utilizing the state-of-the-art filtration systems. A couple of years later, we added solar to that area and supplied solar energy to the Stafford Lake treatment plant. Fire safety, we have increased our tank capacity approximately 60% in the last, since the year 2000, 60% increase. If you know what happened in Santa Rosa because the pumps were deficient and the water levels at the tanks were low because people in water districts pump at night when the cost of pumping is low. So we've worked with the Marin County Fire Department and the Nevada Fire Department to make sure that our tanks are at near capacity all of the time, and in the evening especially. That's what happened to Santa Rosa. They ran out of water in the evening. Fiscal responsibility. We recently, and I love this one, we recently constructed the aqueduct energy efficiency project, which replaced a 30-inch pipe, and I'll have to stop.
Why don't you finish your thought, because we have a little bit more time because Jim isn't here.
Okay.
Good, yeah.
We had a 30-inch pipe that ran between Petaluma and Novato. During the Narrows project, our comp controller was able to negotiate with Caltrans, and Caltrans picked up about 80–90% of the cost of this pipe. But we got a brand-new pipe. It's 42 inches, and it works by gravity. We don't have to use any pumping whatsoever. From all the way from Petaluma to Novato, it was designed to work by gravity. So we copied the Romans, and it's working out very well.
Thank you.
Are we moving into another drought? And if so, what are your plans to alleviate that or help it along? Yes, why don't you start?
Okay. I don't think we ever left the drought. I think the problems with climate change directly affect the access to water, whether it's groundwater or aquifer water. There isn't enough water in the state of California. If you look at changing legislation that's coming down from the state right now, they're talking again about going from toilet to tap as a way to supplement water. So one of the things I proposed to do in Nevada is, while the drought was going on, folks conserved. I think we dropped our water use somewhere between 23 and 25% in order to re-engage them, because folks are back to feeling secure again, like there's plenty of water. We need to open a conversation and show them all the different opportunities they can have through the district for information. Am I still on? Okay. So one of the ways we can do that is we can come into the 21st century and start really using social media, Facebook, the website, the newsletter in a way where people will hear us and listen.
Thank you. Rick?
Thank you.
Well, I personally think that we do communicate with our customers quite well. We send out newsletters every 6 months or so with the latest advances that we made in the district. We also, when there is something that comes up that the customers need to know, we send letters to each customer in the district so that they're fully aware. I'd like to call our district a quiet district. Hardly anybody comes to our meetings. When there is a problem or an issue, we get very few folks to come down. We raise our rates. I think we had less than 10 people showed up at our or sent in emails to ask us not to do the rates as a protest, but that's 10 out of approximately 22,000 customers. So I think we're doing a pretty darn good job there at North Marin, getting water to the folks. And I'd like to go over customer service, but I don't know if I got much time left.
Well, we have other questions as well.
Okay.
Hi. Water rates are increasing. How do you make these rates affordable to people on a fixed income? And we'll start with you, Rick.
Well, we've discussed that, creating a different kind of system for people who are low income, but it's quite contentious. I wouldn't say contentious, but it's very complicated. First of all, you're going to have to prove that you're low income. You're going to have to set standards, et cetera, et cetera. We haven't done that. We charge everybody the same rate as it is, and it's up to the people to conserve. And I would say during the last drought, 32% drop in consumption by the customers of North Marin Water District versus 24% reduction as a state mandate. So the customers stepped up with our help. We have 18 different conservation programs for customers to enroll in or to do, and they did. It's probably the most aggressive conservation program we have in the Sonoma County Water Agency contractors. So it's been rather successful, thank you.
Could you repeat the question?
Am I light on? Water rates are increasing. How do you make those rates affordable to people on a fixed income?
I think it's about, again, it's reaching out and listening. So everything that Rick says is accurate. All that information is online. But when the district recently installed alternative meter information systems, which are essentially smart meters, in an attempt to give people more direct feedback so they could reduce their water costs, so they could actually see if they had a leak, where it was, how to stop it quickly before they suddenly wind up with an $800 water bill. The problem is that people in the community aren't aware of what the programs do or mean. And they also, it's sort of like you go to the board, there was a gal that went in, she's a senior, she said, I didn't know I had a leak for 2 months until I got my bill. AMI hadn't been installed on our meter yet. Can you help me, please? And the district was very kind, but they said, look, we've already given you a discount in the past 24 months. The rule says no more discounts. This is a senior who was losing her house to foreclosure. So, in my opinion, if you want to help people who are struggling financially, the district could actually combine forces with local agencies. In Nevada, we've got Nevada Human Needs Center and the Youth Center, which have reformed to create an entirely new agency that helps folks that are struggling financially. If we could say to this gal, you know what, these agencies help pay bills. When you have an excess heating bill or water bill, one time only, they may be able to help. We want to do more outreach where we can connect customers to resources. And I don't think I have enough time to go on.
So the next question, fire. The water district owns a lot of land and watersheds. How do you protect those but offer services that, such as, that would, I guess, survive a fire breaking out? I think we start with Tina on this one.
What I've heard so far at the board meetings that I've attended is looking at the areas around the tanks to see what we can do to reduce some of the dry brush and growth. What I see at a county level, and it sounds very Marin, goats and sheep. We're not using Roundup anymore, and Nevada's also not agreeing to use Roundup. So I think we have to find ways to reduce fire danger by reducing dry brush and doing it organically.
Well, as I stated before, we worked with both fire districts to make sure that our tanks are up to speed and full of water. I'll just read this. Since we've been conducting our master plan since 2000, we have constructed 5 new tanks, a 20% increase of the number of tanks, and increased Nevada's storage tank volume to 14 million gallons, or a 60% of the total volume. Overall growth in Nevada since 2000 has been relatively slow. Therefore, this increase in storage has been driven significantly by the increase in fire flow. So we're ready, sort of. I mean, I'm scared to death of what's going to happen if we get a high wind and a firestorm like they had in Santa Rosa. But we're much more prepared to fight those fires and keep that water going than Santa Rosa or Sonoma County was. So that's principally one of the things that we're doing, and I think it's going to be successful if we ever get caught in that conundrum. Thank you.
One more.
Okay, this is from the audience, and Yeah, and Rick, you'd start this one. Do you support the purchase of the Potter Valley project that diverts the Eel River to the Russian River by Sonoma Water?
Well, I don't know if you all are familiar with what's going on up there. It's highly controversial. North Marin Water District is one of 11 contractors to the Sonoma County Water Agency, or now they call themselves Sonoma Water. I would say that probably most of those contractors want to keep that option open at the Potter Valley. What we're getting is the Napa River. Years ago, they built a connector between the Napa River and the Russian River. And so we're taking water from the Napa River, which isn't doing a real good job for the salmon, but it's going to be very difficult now to rewrite history. Potter Valley, because of this, over the last 30 or 40 years, have established a pretty solid agricultural component. That's one thing. Lake Mendocino, which is our fallback for water, that water goes into Lake Mendocino and it's stored for release into the Russian River if we ever get into a drought situation. It's all very balanced, but politically, I think it's going to be very difficult to turn that back, turn the history back.
Tina?
I'm not aware of what's going on specifically at Potter Valley, but the way that I would approach the problem is from a conservation effort. I'd be looking at the watershed. I support the Napa Valley Watershed Group that objected to water being rerouted to commercial vineyards because there is a tremendous concern. It's not just in Marin County and Sonoma and the counties all around us, that if we deplete the watershed, if we don't truly respect the resources that we have available, specifically with water, that we're not going to continue to have access to clean drinking water, and we're not going to be able to maintain habitat, and we're not going to be able to do this far into the future. So for me, it would be a question of researching the issue, not so much from a political perspective, but from a conservation perspective.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As I mentioned, if you want further information about the candidates, please see them out in the lobby. Next race we're covering is the Las Colinas Sanitary District. I'd like to invite Megan Clark and Crystal Yesman up to the podium, please. Crystal, you might want to push the little push button if you would like some water. Megan, when you're comfortable. We have Megan Clark and Crystal Yesman. Megan, when you're comfortable, give us your introductory speech, please.
Anyway, I didn't think I'd be here today, and Carol was going to read my statement. I just got off a plane. It's 10 o'clock in Austin, where we were talking about water reuse, which is fantastic because when people talk about having pure water to drink and how difficult it is to get it, the Water Reuse Conference was very helpful in addressing many, many of those issues. And I think what they call sewer mining, which is a terrible word, is where we can easily and economically produce water that's pure, whether you call it recycled or toilet to tap, whatever you call it. So that's where I've come back from. Austin's doing great. Blah, 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 attending a conference. Okay, first and foremost, I am a strong environmentalist whose priority is the health of people and the planet. Very early on, I recognized the importance of solar energy and was a leading voice in bringing the largest solar installation to the district in Marin County. solar energy provides a good portion of our treatment plant. It used to provide all of it, but we've now gone to recycled water, and that's using more energy. Sea level rise is an issue. We're at sea level, and we need to address that, and the sooner we address it, the better, because a lot of the solutions take a long time to. Is that how much I have left?
Yep,
Oh,
sorry.
okay. Yeah, we're a leading public health agency, and I take that seriously. We protect the bay, prevent sewage spills, look at sewage as a resource, that little waste as possible. Safety and morale of the employees has become very vital now, and I want us to go from some of the,
We have more questions, guys. This is just supposed to be a snapshot, so thank you. Crystal?
Okay, thank you. First off, thanks for having me tonight. It's a pleasure to speak to everybody here. My name is Crystal Yesman, and I'm running for one of the 3 seats that are open on the Las Colinas Valley Sanitary District Board. There's 4 candidates and 3 seats that are open. It's an at-large position, so all 10,000 or so folks, services in the area will be voting on the position. Myself, I'm a licensed civil engineer. I've been working in the wastewater utility business for over 20 years, managing water systems. I went to UC Berkeley, one of the top engineering schools in the country, where I graduated with honors, specifically in water and wastewater design. I live in Santa Venetia, and as a resident of Santa Venetia, I feel that it's important to have people on the board that are educated and knowledgeable about the district and how it operates. Recently, the Las Colinas Valley Sanitary District acquired bond funding in the amount of about $40 million for a complete plant upgrade, and bids came in millions of dollars over the $40 million. So staff is currently going back to the drawing board and cutting aspects of the project, and I'd like to be part of that decision-making process. Also, you might know that they recently went through a controversial issue with their general manager and staff relations, and so they're in the process of hiring a new general manager, and I would also like to be part of that. In terms of women in politics, I've been working in a man's world for over 20 years. I'm the first woman in 100 years to hold my current position as the division manager for facilities and watershed for the Marin Municipal Water District. I've done all I can do to hire and recruit and promote women into the field, into trades fields, and I've even sat on panels for women's in trades. I'm the first woman in my family to graduate college from generations of women.
Thank you. If you have questions, give them to Greg, please. Thank you.
Okay, you both covered a lot of territory, so I'm just asking you to double down a little bit and talk about maybe one specific project that you're particularly promoting or that you feel is particularly important. You did cover a lot of things, so Megan?
we have a lot of priorities now, but the top 2 are obviously upgrading the plants and the treatment plant. Our bids went out actually at 35 million and came back the lowest one at 57. So anyway, we have, with the help of our interim general manager, who was the retired North Marin Water District manager, we have got a plan that we've already cut down to. Our plan is now out to bid as we speak, so we'll see what comes back. And also, it's human resources. We have to upgrade the morale. We have to put in policies and practices that will make sure that this never happens again. The board, including me, allowed themselves to not know what the real situation was. Stop.
Okay, we've already talked about the plant upgrade. I'll talk a moment about recycled water. I had the opportunity to manage startup of the largest advanced recycled water treatment plant in Northern California. That's down in Silicon Valley. That was a $68 million plant construction project. And I got to get my hands dirty in terms of managing some really advanced technologies with reverse osmosis, ultraviolet disinfection, and microfiltration. And so I'm really a proponent of recycled water. It's a reliable source of water that's always going to be there. Another project that I'm concerned about with Las Colinas is the Miller Creek project. Their outfall was filled up with sediment, and they've been dredging the creek there, which, as you might know, has sensitive steelhead trout species. They had a failure of their work in the winter 2 years ago, and they went out for redesign, and they're currently back in construction this season. And I certainly have some thoughts and some input that I'd like to give into that project in terms of its success.
Oh, yeah, you can do, yeah, go ahead.
Do you want to?
Jean.
Hi. What is the long-term financial outlook for the organization? And Crystal?
Sure. Well, as a new candidate, I still have yet to get my hands on the books, so that's a question I'm sure Megan would be able to answer much thoroughly. Certainly, I'm familiar with rate structuring and cost of service and putting in place affordable rates. I would hope that the water district has adequate revenue to cover their what's called their debt service coverage ratio, which is a bond covenant with their bonding providers. In addition, they should have adequate revenue to cover operations and maintenance, in addition to capital outlays. So I would be taking a close look at their financials and suggesting different analysis that could be done in order to solidify their rates and ensure that they're solid.
I think we were more solid after before the upgrade came in so high. Because I'm not an engineer and I don't really know. I know that costs for construction rose considerably with the fires. It's a question of, do we go to our ratepayers? Do we get more bond funding? How do we approach it? And I'm pretty bold when it comes to going to the ratepayers. I really can't afford rates anyway, but I'm an environmentalist, and by gosh, we need to make sure that the bay's in good shape, that we can do an excellent job, and especially when it comes to personnel, but for all phases of finance. I went to the Wharton School of Finance, so I have some feeling for it, but it's not an easy issue.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wish we had more time, but thank you so much. Next, I'd like to call up candidates for the Marin County Healthcare District. Thanks, Jen. Do you know if somebody's reading a statement on behalf of Dr. Bedard? There's somebody. I'm not sure who it is. Is there a representative for Dr. Bedard? Okay.
One of two.
Going up?
Yeah.
One of two?
I've been told that there are two.
Asking questions.
Or you're just asking questions?
Just answering questions. If there were any medically related questions. 'Cause
I'm sorry, who are you?
I'm Dr. Siva.
Oh, but Dr. Siva, the problem is that we didn't receive a questionnaire from you. And, oh, I'm sorry, I'm confused. Basically, so we have Dr. Ed Alfrey, representative for Dr. Larry Bedard, Melissa Bradley, Dr. Jennifer Ranks, and Dr. Brian Sue. So if you want to start, Dr. Sue, and then Dr. Bedard's representative, if you could just introduce yourself when it's your turn, that would be great. Thank you. Dr. Sue?
I'm Dr. Sue. Can you guys hear me?
Push this?
Push that, yes.
Here we go, okay.
But don't touch the stem.
Don't start my timing yet.
Yeah.
I'm Dr. Sue. I'm a candidate for the Marin Healthcare District Board. I'm currently the community member and representative to the Healthcare District Board, Lease and Building Committee. I came to Marin 10 years ago. I trained at Columbia University. I did a residency there. I then did a spine surgery fellowship at Thomas Jefferson, and am currently the Surgeon-in-Chief of California Orthopedics and Spine. We are a 14-practitioner group with the largest provider of orthopedic and spine care in Marin. Many of you have probably been our patients. And it's been a privilege to be named a San Francisco top doctor, a 4 and 5 top doctor, Castle Connolly top doctor. Each year, I see about 3,000 patients in my clinic. I perform 200 spine operations at Marin General Hospital. Monday, did a front back scoliosis correction. Tuesday, rounded on that patient. Yesterday at 4 a.m., got a call from the nurse. Tomorrow, I'll do 3 more surgeries, and Friday, I'll do a cervical deformity correction surgery. Needless to say, my daily interactions with patient staff gives me a very unique perspective into what is needed to ensure the highest level of care at Marin General Hospital. For that reason, I also serve on the Hospital Board Quality Committee and philanthropically serve on the MGH Foundation Board. I can say I live in Kentfield. I can see the hospital from my backyard. I want to make certain that all of you have great care, have access to great care. And I feel that the district board needs somebody on the board who's not financially tied to the hospital, who is familiar with the inner workings of the hospital, and somebody who's worked with all 3 different boards, district, operating, and foundation. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Hi, my name's Jennifer Rinks, and I'm running again for the district board. I was first elected in 2006, right after the documents to transfer Marin General Hospital from Sutter Control back to District Control were signed. We spent 4 years prepping for that. We took the hospital back in 2010, and we've actually achieved a very successful transition. We're in the process of rebuilding the hospital. It's set to open in 2020, state-of-the-art green facility with the support of the community. I'm running to finish what we started to get us through that building of the hospital. I'm also in favor of expanding mental health programs, increasing access to primary care, and replacing our aging physician workforce. I also work at UCSF. I'm in the research faculty in the Department of Family and Community Medicine. I've been working there since 1996, and I currently lead the Family Health Outcomes Project. I have a PhD in social psychology and extensive experience in public health. I work with the state Public Health Association, the Maternal and Child Adolescent Health Program, and all of the local health programs. So I bring a unique perspective to the board because I actually am focused on that broader group, population health, and ensuring community access to a wide range of services, including mental health services, labor and delivery services, trauma services, more robust emergency services. So I'm really hoping to get your endorsement again this time. I've been endorsed by this organization several times. I've also been endorsed by the Democratic Central Committee. And I'm going to continue doing what we've been doing. I'm a good listener. I work well with everybody. And I really put the needs of you, the community residents, first, ahead of the doctors, ahead of the nurses, because it's you that we're actually doing all this for. It's your hospital, it's your healthcare district, and it needs to serve your needs. Thank you.
Melissa?
Hi, thank you. My name is Melissa Bradley. I'm the owner of Bradley Real Estate. I've owned my business for over 25 years, and I'm currently not working in my business even though I own it. So I have most of my time to dedicate to community service and political advocacy. And that's what I've been doing in the last about the last year. I've been doing a lot of volunteering within the community, and I've also been in the process of a very difficult divorce settlement for over a year and a half. And the reason I decided to become politically active and become an advocate is because I am a survivor of domestic violence, and so are my children. And during this process, I have realized that the court system, the criminal justice system, the healthcare system, including mental health system, and a number of other things, have much to be desired. So about a year ago, I decided that I wanted to do something about it. And I am drawing upon my own personal experiences to do that. I did not intend on running for office right now, but when it came up that the deadline was extended for this office, I decided to run. And I quickly learned all about Marin Healthcare District. And it's interesting. One of the first things I noticed when I looked on the board is that everyone on the board currently is somehow connected to healthcare. Most of them are doctors, as well as the two people that are not incumbents, the two surgeons. And I realized that, oh, it's hard for me to stop. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ed Alfrey. I would like to thank the Marin Women's Political Action Committee for the opportunity to speak with you all. I started out my career in medicine about 40 years ago as a first responder, as a paramedic in the city and county of Denver, and subsequently went to medical school, and now I'm the medical director of trauma for Marin General Hospital and part of the acute care surgery program. So I've kind of done a complete circle from beginning at first responder and now as at trauma services. In between, I've been on the faculty at 3 different institutions and trained a lot of residents and students, some of which actually practice in Marin County. I started my faculty career at Stanford and was there for about 10 years. Throughout my career, I've been very interested in serving the uninsured and underinsured, and this year I received the Legacy Award from Operation Access, which is a company, an organization that services the uninsured and provides health care for them. I am very interested in this position. I have a master's degree in healthcare management from Harvard. I'm very interested in this position because I do think that we have a lot of opportunity for healthcare in Marin County with the new hospital being built and an affiliation with UCSF. But having been through and lived through the failed UCSF-Stanford merger when I was on the faculty at Stanford, I know the pitfalls that can occur when you try to affiliate or merge with different institutions. And so while I think that there's a number of tremendous opportunities with that and with the new hospital, I think we also have opportunities to make sure it's successful. And as a practicing physician, as Dr. Sue is, in the fray of the hospital in the middle of night on Friday night, I certainly know what's going on, and I think I have a unique opportunity to help the leadership of the hospital through the Healthcare District Board be successful.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Dr. Bedard's representative, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Bill Walmsley. I am not a doctor. Been to a few in my day, but probably the only one up here who's not qualified in that area. At any rate, Dr. Bedard's out of town and wanted me to read a statement for him. He and I are pretty good buddies. So, at any rate, he has a campaign statement here that says, "I'm seeking re-election to complete the process of building a modern, state-of-the-art, seismically safe, full-service hospital for Marin. 2010, as chair of the Marin Healthcare District, I led the transition of Marin General Hospital from Sutter Control to a successful standalone community hospital governed by a highly skilled and experienced MGH board of directors of community leaders. I support the affiliation of Marin General with the University of California, San Francisco Medical Center. As a member and delegate of the recently merged San Francisco Marin Medical Society, I believe I'm in a position to work with MGH and UCSF to ensure a successful and beneficial affiliation of our hospitals. I'm an emergency physician who practiced at MGH for more than 30 years. I have a unique perspective on the needs and desires of the community, patients, physicians, and nurses. I will promise you commitment, competence, and compassion, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you."
Thank you.
Okay, we'll start the questioning with Dr. Sue. It's kind of combining 2 questions. What needs to be done to alleviate overcrowding in the emergency ward? How would you encourage uninsured or underinsured patients to use sources other than the emergency ward for non-emergency needs, i.e. the community clinics?
I think from an overcrowding standpoint in the ER, and I would say this fully admittedly that I'm not in the ER that much thankfully, and maybe Dr. Alfred can comment, he's probably in the ER quite a bit more. My understanding quite a bit has to do with the available beds in the hospital. The available beds in the hospital have to do with discharges because you can't get somebody in without getting somebody out. So I think there probably has to be more robust social work to get patients out of the hospital so you can get patients from the ER into the hospital. From a community standpoint, I structured an agreement with the Marin Community Clinic this past year with Mitesh Popat with our organization. We now provide 100% of the orthopedic and spine care to the community clinic. These are patients who have Medi-Cal or uninsured. So I think partnerships like that are, with private practices, are the way to go. These patients get the same doctors, the same level of service that my private patients get now at the community clinic. So I think bolstering those specialty services within the clinic is the way to go.
Hi. Well, one of the ways that we're going to help alleviate overcrowding in the ER is actually by expanding significantly the capacity of the ER as we move into the new hospital. Now, that doesn't totally deal with the issue that Brian raised, which is boarding of patients and not having enough beds upstairs. So we're also expanding the number of critical care beds that we have upstairs to make it easier to transfer patients upstairs. But that said, we actually really do need to try to provide more access to primary care. We thought when we insured more people with the Affordable Care Act that we'd see a decrease in ER volume, and we've seen just the opposite. And my concern, too, is now that the Trump administration has got so many immigrants fearful of actually seeking services, people are delaying care. So I think there's a number of things we need to do. One of them is to work with organizations that are serving some of the immigrant populations to let them know that they're not going to be they're not going to get in trouble for using the clinic, and really doing what we can to alleviate their concerns to get them into the clinic, to use the clinic. I think what Brian's talking about, which is bringing specialty care into the clinic, is a terrific idea, making that accessible to patients in the clinic. Thank you.
Hi, Melissa Bradley here. So the Marin Healthcare District is an oversight board that can make recommendations to the hospital board. The hospital board and the executive board are the ones that run the business. So as a Marin Healthcare District board member, there's a lot of suggestions that I would have for the hospital board. And related to this one particular issue with the clinics, it's really a matter of a campaign to let people know. The problem is people go into the emergency room. I was just talking to somebody in the hallway about this, for things that could be taken care of in a clinic. And it's really a communications campaign that needs to happen. And the clinics themselves need to provide more services and to get that message out to the public. Thank you.
So overcrowding in the emergency department has, there's two major areas that cause the overcrowding from the hospital side. One is the operating room, and one is the intensive care unit. So flow through those two create a backlog into the emergency department. Emergency department overcrowding has a number of downstream side effects. One of the side effects is that we end up having to board patients in the emergency department rather than getting them up to the ward. And another problem is we have to divert ambulances away because the emergency department gets so crowded. One way to alleviate that is to use better utilization of the clinics that we have in the county, so people don't use the emergency department as their primary care. It also decreases the total cost. And as already been mentioned, the emergency department will be larger, but the number of functional beds is actually not going to be different, and the number of functional beds in the hospital is actually less than we have now. So we're still going to have this problem to solve when the new hospital opens up. So.
You're above my pay grade, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and unfortunately, nobody can answer on behalf of Dr. Bedard, so I have to just ask the questions of the participants here.
All right, so this is from the audience. Do you support adding additional beds to the mental health unit of the new hospital? Currently, there are 17 beds in the mental health unit. Will there be more than 17 in the new hospital?
Jennifer. We're starting with Jennifer.
Okay. So currently, the psych beds aren't actually in the main hospital building itself. They're in a separate unit, and they're going to stay in that separate unit. They were not covered by the seismic safety standards. The seismic safety standards for the hospital are for people who can't get up and walk out of a bed. On the mental health unit, the people can get up and walk out of a bed, so they don't need to be in the same sort of seismically safe facility. That said, there's a tremendous problem with mental health. We are the only mental health beds between the Golden Gate Bridge and Oregon border that accept Medi-Cal patients. What we are doing currently right now is we are subsidizing all the other counties who are sending their patients to us. And by law, if we have an open bed, we have to take them. So there's a lot of solutions to this, aside from building more mental health beds, which the hospital loses money on. We need to increase outpatient services, and we need to work on so people don't get to the point where they need mental health hospitalization in the first place. And the district's actually invested heavily in that, and we're going to continue doing that. And the other thing is that we really need to get our other counties up north to increase their mental health beds. It's not fair to keep moving people from county to county and bouncing them all around.
Hi, Melissa Bradley. This is one of the things that I actually had on my campaign issues that I feel strongly about. The 17 mental health beds have not grown with the population of Marin County. Sadly, people, especially homeless people, many times wind up in jail because there's not enough beds, or people are placed in out of the area facilities. I talked with Maya Gladstern from Community Action Marin, as well as director of NAMI Marin, and they both agreed that this was something really important that they wanted me to push forward if elected. And as I explained earlier, the Marin Healthcare District Board is not the decision maker. Marin General Hospital is the decision maker, but we can be an advocate, and I plan to be a very strong advocate. And one of the really unique things about me is that I'm not directly connected to the hospital in any way, as every other candidate is. Stop.
Thank you.
So it would be ideal to have more mental health beds. Another way to alleviate that is to have more transition opportunities. We had a young patient that was in the emergency department for 3.5 days just last week because there was no place for that patient to go. So having more inpatient beds is very important, but the other thing that's very important is to make sure that we have transition facilities where they can go if they don't need to be an inpatient, but they need supportive mental health care. That's something that the county can do. I agree that we don't have direct decision-making over what beds the hospital is going to assign in the new hospital, although we can pressure them for sure. But the one thing that we can do is we can, as a community, a healthcare community, we can identify resources and support to better support the outpatient services so that patients don't end up in the hospital.
Thank you. Tammy?
No,
Oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Sue, pardon me.
I can just say what she said and what he says.
Oh, please, go ahead.
It's fine.
That doesn't count. No, go ahead.
No,
We just rotate.
No, it's fine. I totally agree. I think the largest problem is actually access to facilities that accept your insurance, and unfortunately, that's what healthcare is like in America today. You get paid a different rate per doctor, you pay a different thing per patient, you're seeing the same doctor, the same service, and if you are the only hospital that accepts mental health patients, you're going to be inundated by definition. So I think that's probably the biggest issue, and I think the transition of care as well is what's needed. It's a really difficult problem, probably the biggest thing that everybody talks about whenever I'm on the district board. Committee meetings, that's what we're talking about is mental health.
Hi. Describe the extent of the role of UCSF might have with Marin General Hospital, both services and staff. And we'll start with Melissa.
The one question that I don't know a whole lot about. Okay, I'm just going to be honest that I decided to do this because I want to be an advocate for the rest of my life for a lot of these issues. And so regarding the UCSF transition that apparently just happened today, I'm not privy to a whole lot of information regarding that. I have read over pages and pages and pages of what was available on the Marin Healthcare District website as well as the Marin General Hospital website. But can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Describe the extent of the role of UCSF might have with Marin General Hospital, both services and staff?
So I just think in general, the UCSF connection is a good connection. Obviously, they have extremely well-qualified doctors, and there's a lot of services there that can't be provided at Marin General. So I see the liaison between the two of them as a benefit, and that's about as the extent that I can say is that to me, it's a good thing.
So the affiliation agreement is to really help the patients of Marin County have access to services that are not available through Marin General Hospital. We don't have a transplant program. We're never going to have a transplant program. We don't do pediatric trauma. We're never going to do that. But there are services that they provide through this affiliation agreement. We don't anticipate there's going to be a bunch of UCSF faculty members suddenly practice in Marin. There's a reason that they're practicing there. But there are gaps in the care that we have based on the providers that we have, and that's where the affiliation agreement will be very, very helpful. We're also, through this affiliation agreement, get a more robust electronic medical record, which will help all of the physicians in Marin County communicate not only with the physicians in Marin County, but also with the physicians that are now that are taking care of the patients at UCSF.
Dr. Sue?
Yes, so I think you have to be careful what you ask for, right? So there's good and bad. The good parts, as Dr. Alfrey already mentioned, is access to services, which I think is terrific. I work with their neurosurgery department to do spinal surgery, and there's a good brain program there now. I think the biggest thing is contracting. So through a very complex relationship, because hospitals cannot employ doctors in California, they do so through the 1206B clinics, they do so through Prima Medical Group, Prima Foundation. That is an organization that net is a money-losing thing, although altogether is a money-gaining thing. Contracting is one of the biggest things that they'll get. They won't get true faculty contracts, but the doctors will get much better contracts than we have now. And what does that allow us to do is to recruit young doctors. I just came from a 7:30 meeting where I hired 3 doctors, a hip surgeon, a hand surgeon, and a pain management surgeon. These guys can't afford to buy houses in Marin, and so they're not going to stay. So our goal is to get good doctors to stay, and there's no other real way to do it besides contracting. I think we have to be careful about the relationship of existing specialties like mine, ortho and spine, and having UC docs coming in, to Ed's point, and making certain that doesn't happen, since you guys already have good docs in certain specialties.
Okay, this is something that we've been waiting for a long time, and it's been in the works for a long time. And today we're actually announcing that it is public and it's a signed deal. And what this is going to do is this is actually going to bring more care into Marin. As it's been mentioned, there's specialties that we don't have in Marin, and UCSF is bursting at the seams, and they're looking to actually do more practicing into the community so they can bring in specialties that we don't have. We've already been collaborating with them. We've been collaborating with them on neonatal intensive care unit care, trauma care. We've also been collaborating with them on pediatric care. One of the things that UCSF brings to the table is more of a focus on improving population health that's keeping you healthy so you don't actually need hospital-based services. UCS has that deep expertise to do that. We don't. They also can help revitalize our primary care practices. UCSF pioneers things like team-based care, so I'm really looking forward to them coming in and helping bring our primary care practices up to the highest standard that they can possibly be. So I think in the end, it's going to be a very positive thing, and it's really going to help us recruit new doctors, which we have we have an aging physician workforce here, and it is hard to recruit new doctors. So this is going to help. Thank you.
One more question? Okay. Oh, you're doing it. Sorry. My mistake.
I was going to ask about recruiting new and younger physicians, so they sort of address that issue. How does community paramedicine fit in with the hospital's role? And that would be you.
Now, are you referring to first responders, or are you referring to physician extenders?
Well, we have a...
Paramedics are usually first responders, and their role is to transport, stabilize patients in the field and transfer them to the hospital. Physician extenders, nurse practitioners, or physician's assistants can provide care to clinic patients in lieu of or in collaboration with a physician. So those are 2 different things. So a paramedic, by definition, is somebody that is not working in a clinic.
Yeah.
Is this a question from the audience?
Yeah.
Oh, if somebody wants to clarify.
well, we looked
Did you
it
want to?
up.
sitting on the governor's desk, it's going to expand the role of paramedics in the stations where they're starting to open up clinics and fire stations. They're doing it on the East Bay currently, and you see that as something that the hospital board is going to embrace. Obviously, they're going to have to use a doctor as a person who oversees the program. Is that something you see coming to Marin County as a way to alleviate the problems of the ER?
Well, I think a better way to alleviate the clogs in the ER is through the clinics that are already established. I'm not sure what they're doing in the East Bay. Having been a paramedic before, I can tell you that the role of a paramedic is not longitudinal care. So they're not trained for that, so.
It's like I said, the governor signed it.
Governor signed lots of things, but I haven't been a paramedic. I can tell you, paramedics aren't trained to do longitudinal care.
Dr. Sue?
Yeah, I think that's part of the issue also with emergent care. I mean, more than 50% of the ER visits are orthopedic and spine-based, broken bones, things like that, and they don't always have to go to the ER. Our office has a portable urgent care. It's kind of like an Uber for an orthopedic surgeon, where if you break something, you can actually look on an app to see if one of us is available. So I think providing urgent care clinics is probably a better idea. I don't know what's happening either at the fire stations, but declogging the ER has to do with getting people that actually need the ER to the ER. Prima is also extending, or Meritage at least is extending extended office hours for some primary care doctors. So their extended office hours to 8, 9 p.m., their evening hours up in Novato. So I think that will help as well.
I also am not really familiar with the bill, but I will say that I think we have a medical shortage in California. We have a shortage of medical professionals. So getting people to practice at the top of their license, I think, is a good thing. If there are things that the paramedics can do, and it might involve more training, but if they can manage cases that really don't need to be in the ER, I think that that could be a very positive thing. I think a lot of paramedics are in the fire station a lot of time not really doing a whole lot. So if there's a way that we can better utilize them and improve community health, I'm very interested.
Melissa Bradley, I wanted to reiterate something so that the audience really understands the position of the Marin Healthcare District Board. I've read through the bylaws a number of times, and the district board members are oversight and recommendation. We review budgets, we review salaries, we review what's happening, but we are not the decision makers. The Marin General Hospital is leased to Marin General Corporation, and they are the decision makers. The way that the board can really represent the constituency is to be an advocate, and that's what I intend to do. And I'm the only person that does not have a financial gain in any way but by the hospital. And that's important because the executive board that makes the decisions for the business of Marin General Hospital is directly connected to every single person on the board or running on the board in one way or another. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
And just for clarification, the district is the sole corporate member of Marin General Hospital Corporation, and we appoint the board. So it's not that far apart. Thank you.
Okay, and just for clarification on the ballot, underneath the name of each race, you'll notice that how many candidates you can vote up to, that's how many seats are available. So you don't have to just vote for one if you could, for instance, with the College of Marin Board of Trustees, there's 3 seats available, so you can vote up to 3. Next, I'd like to call the candidates for the Marin Municipal Water District Division 4, Jack Gibson and Greg Nell. Oh, you're Division 1, I'm sorry. I can correct that, thank you.
Right, so. why are we-
Oh, I'm sorry.
The agenda has them all together.
You're right. The ballot is separate, because you're endorsing in two different races, I'm going to call the candidates for all the water district, because even though there are two separate divisions, the issues are all going to be the same. So Cynthia Kohler and Joby Tapia. When you're all set, Greg?
Yes. Hi, I'm Greg Nell, currently president of the Santa Fe City School Board, and I've been reelected 4 times in Division I, all by wide margins or unopposed. People are probably asking, why am I running against the beloved Jack Gibson, who you've endorsed many times in the past? Well, the reason is we're looking at a new normal, a new kind of fire, a new kind of drought brought about by climate change. And I went to Coffey Park and I saw Terra Linda there, and it's just scared me to death. And I made the decision that I wanted to do something about it and utilize my skills from running a much larger district with a much larger budget than MMWD, with 3 times the employees and 3 unions, not 1, may make me overqualified for the water district, but I have a lot of training to balance budgets. For 16 years, I've balanced budgets 3 years out with ever charging kids more money. And with the MMWD, when you can just raise rates at any time without any approval, there is not the motivation to make the hard choices. I want to free up money for fire safety, for firefighter safety, and for rate moderation. You know, I'm looking at the seniors that have been left out of the equation and small businesses that are being hurt by the 6 planned rate increases in 2018 and was 2018, but then they passed the Incumbent Protection Act and put it out to 2019 and 2020. So one of the ideas I have is to stop buying fluoridic acid. We do something in the school districts that I'll talk about later. Oh, I wanted to say I'm highly recommended by my mother.
Cynthia, thank you. As a longtime member of the Marin Women's Political Action Committee, I'm very pleased to be with all of you tonight. Thank you for holding this forum. I am the water professional and expert in the Division IV race. I have more than 25 years in the water industry working to advance sustainable and affordable water solutions and policy. My leadership and effectiveness have been recognized by various organizations, including the Marin Conservation League and the Bay Institute of San Francisco. I was selected by the US EPA to serve on their National Council of Local Elected Leaders. In my time on the Marin Municipal Water District Board, we have achieved many solid accomplishments, of which I am very proud. Primarily, where I have put most of my own energies is the shift to investments in efficiency and distributed water infrastructure. This has saved ratepayers tens of millions of dollars, even as we are now using significantly less water than we were when I was first elected in 2004. We have also made significant strides on fire safety and watershed stewardship. And while costs have been rising at water utilities across California and nationwide, we have consistently kept our rates below the consumer price index, and our water is still a bargain at right around $0.01 a gallon. I am a progressive, proud to have the endorsement of the Marin Democratic Party, U.S. Representative Jared Huffman, the President of Emerge America, Andrea Dew Steele, and numerous community leaders. As the only woman on the Municipal Water District Board for most of my tenure, I am very proud that I have made a priority out of mentoring and advancing women at the district. And I am, again, pleased to be here today. I seek your endorsement and your vote. Thank you for your consideration.
Joby?
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you and to seek an endorsement. I'm running in this race because I care about this county. I've moved here in the early 2000s. I live on the side of Mount Tam, and I've witnessed changes to the environment and to the populace. And I think it's time that we start taking a long-term view about how we're going to approach from not only a environmental standpoint, but a budgetary standpoint of our shared resources that are becoming more and more scarce. I've run over $500 million worth of real estate in my career. I've dealt with budgets the size approximately of that of the Marin Municipal Water District and a staff about the same size as well. So I'm not unfamiliar with running a organization of this size. My primary focus is fiscal. I'm a budget hawk. I look at the budgets and determine to see where we can make changes that are effective to deliver the services we need without making unnecessary cuts. We're looking at a budget shortfall this year. We're looking at one next year. I've looked at the revenues that have been declining, and the fiscal year projections for this year and next year seem to have a 16% increase over the declining income from the past 3 years. I don't know where that money is coming from. We need to be honest with our ratepayers and let them know that we have some hard choices to make. We either need to fund some things that we've promised, or we need to start taking a look at declining the amount we're spending in certain areas. I'm committed to the delivery of clean, safe water, and that is my primary focus. My secondary focus is the reduction of fire fuel load on the side of the mountain. I live right next to the Edgewood Reservoir that blew up in a fire that was fortunately contained very quickly, but I watched how fast it burned, and it scared the living bejesus out of me. So these are my focuses, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Jack?
Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you, and obviously I'm here seeking your vote. What I do at most of these sorts of sessions is I start out with all the things that I've done for the watershed and my interest in the watershed and my interest in recycled water, et cetera, et cetera. That's not what I want to do tonight. What I want to do tonight is I want to talk to you, this group, and why this group, above all else, should be a group that supports me, and I'll tell you why. When I joined the Water District over 20 years ago now, I mean, it was an organization right out of the 1950s. I mean, it was absolute classic male-dominated. There were no women in senior positions, no women in professional positions. Every woman that worked for the Water District was in a lower clerk-like position, no top jobs. 4 months into the job, we hired a new general manager, first woman general manager at the Water District in history. We didn't hire her because she was a woman. We hired her because she was a good manager. Since that time, we have just retired a woman chief financial officer. Our general counsel is a woman. We have Crystal, who is now our facilities and watershed head, first in 100 years, as she pointed out. We have women in finance. We have young women in engineering coming up there. And we have women scientists. Now, they're only giving me 30 seconds. I had a whole section here about how I support my wife, Yolanda, known many to you. And that's in my resume. You can take a look at that. But that's why I think you ought to support me. Thanks.
Thank you.
Fire is the most frightening prospect for this county. How will the Water District protect its vast watershed property and offer its services should such a fire break out? Greg?
Yes. What they're doing now, where you have manual teams, I think they're called Kroger teams, of 5 guys that have chainsaws and backhoes, and they're out removing the brush and the saplings. We need to reduce the fuel load that's out there. The reddest of the red is the watershed when you look at the fire danger maps. One thing particularly I'm advocating is the installation of a fire spotter system. These are 8 cameras with 360 mobility, and the algorithm and the computers that drive them use shot spotter triangulation, and it will spot immediately where the ignition is taking place so we can get on it. If you look at the fire just right here, you know, it was 5 acres and it was 150 acres by the end of the night. So it's really important to get there fast, and Sonoma is putting this system in. I would find the money to put the system in here. Thank you.
I think the short answer, I'm sorry.
Oh, don't,
Don't
yeah.
touch.
Guess
Don't
I have
touch
to
the mic.
remind everybody each time you're not supposed to touch the stem. You just bend into it.
I'm bending
you.
in. I'm leaning in. So the short answer is yes. The Water District has, during my entire tenure, has made fire a priority. I would say more so every year. We have spent, I may not get this number exactly right, but upwards of, well, let's just say tens of millions of dollars on fire flow and related vegetation management. And we have, the thing that I am most proud of is that we have developed a very, very strong working relationship with the fire agencies and with our sister land management agencies. As you all know, we don't own everything on the mountain. We have a tremendous responsibility that we take incredibly seriously. It is something that we spend an enormous amount of our time on and a significant part of our budget. I'm very proud of the staff that we have on this. We have a plan where to address vegetation management, to increase our fire response infrastructure, and we have tremendous first responders. So I would be the last to say that we should be sitting on those laurels, but it's important to look at the achievements that we've made. We have a great deal more to do, and I believe that we have the team in place and the very, very strong, healthy working relationships to do it.
I very much concur with Ms. Kohler. I think that they've done a good job so far, but I think that there's opportunity to always improve on the performance. I think that there needs to be a more aggressive use of goats, hand tools, hand crews, maybe even community involvement, volunteer hours, a creative program where community involvement with a certain amount of help, they can get some sort of water credit. I'm open to ideas on how to expand the workforce, but we need to get more workforce on the side of the mountain to clear the fire fuel. We've seen what happened in Santa Rosa last year. We saw a brief glimpse of it this year, just above CMP Taylor. I saw it firsthand at the reservoir, and we need to address this. The fire safety is something that the side of the mountain can go up faster than any of us can believe, and I don't want that to be on my watch.
Okay, 100 years ago, William Kent helped the Water District create the Tamalpais Firefighting Association. And since that time, there has not been a pause in steps designed to protect the watershed from fire. The goal is clearly one of reality here. We can mitigate the circumstances, but we're not going to prevent fires totally. It can't be done. But I invite you to go up to the watershed and take a look at we've spent $1 million on taking care of wiping out the ground cover. You'll see trees branched up about 10 feet so that you don't get that ground fire that is so dangerous and puts the fires out of control. Take a look for yourself. It is done perpetually. We're not just reacting to the last fire. We have 1,000 acres of open ground that's fire breaks. We have the fire flow program that went in, you'll have to figure that out.
Or ask them out in the lobby.
Yeah, ask me out in the lobby, I'll tell you.
Thank you.
Hi. Water rates are increasing. How do you make these rates affordable to people on a fixed income? And
You want me
Cynthia?
to start? So water rates are increasing. As I mentioned, they're increasing everywhere. And I think that's something that we really keep our eyes on. The short answer is that Marin has an unusual number of programs to help people who are economically disadvantaged. EPA did a study about this, I want to say 2 years ago, and Marin, interestingly, I mean, it's not that big a district, so it's interesting, it was one of their 170, 180, and we come up pretty well. But the short answer is, as was mentioned earlier, Proposition 218 makes it hard to do something directly. We've got some alternatives to that I can talk to you out in the hall because I don't have any seconds. But, but the other thing that we do that's unusual for water districts, we have exemptions for people with medical disabilities so that they need more water. We also fund direct installation and rebate programs. But the main thing we do is that we invest in efficiency because that's how you keep rates down. Instead of building expensive new infrastructure, we have kept costs down because we are investing in making our water as affordable as possible, and that is done through distributed infrastructure and efficiency. And that is, I think, the long-term projection for keeping rates low.
So having worked in the housing industry, I know that the public agencies such as the SFHA in San Francisco, the Marin Housing Authority, have utility payment vouchers that go along with their housing vouchers. I would seek to work with a public agency to if there is a means test that low income are threatened with a shortage of water because they can't pay, I would look to work with a public agency to see if there's additional funding that can be made available to help pay these bills. The water is somewhat affordable right now, but the costs are increasing dramatically. Looking at the debt service coverage ratios that we have over the budget right now, I can tell you that from an apartment industry, the lending would be much more expensive at the current debt service coverage. So we need to start taking a look at what the long-term costs are of maintaining and building our infrastructure, and then educate our populace about what it actually costs to deliver this water.
Okay, Cynthia has indicated that we have a variety of programs that people can avail themselves of. But one that I think is directly to your question, we have if a ratepayer falls within the federally defined low-income status, you can simply file verify that, filing an application with the district, and the district will waive all of the fees associated with it, not the basic water rate itself, which you obviously control by amount of water you use, but the meter fee and the watershed fee, all of that gets waived. Okay.
Yeah, I think if you can suspend the rate increases for 1 year so you're not running behind a rate increase, you can suspend the rate increases for another year. I think we have to look at the whole budget. You know, I've been doing 12 budgets a year, 6 budgets for the elementary district, 6 budgets for the high school district. And we balance the budget with the resources we have, and that means position control. And that means making hard choices. For example, the tariff war that Trump has started means that we're going to get a 25% chemical tariff from China on the fluoric acid that we buy. I don't think we should buy it at all. Now, the law says if you have 190 customers, you got to buy it. But the threshold is 160,000 customers, which is why North Marin Water doesn't do fluoride. Well, what we do in the school business is we go to the state and ask for a waiver. We're so close to that threshold, I think it can be done, and that would be a tremendous savings, both in purchasing the chemical and, you know, it's not sodium fluoride, it's not the salt, it's actually poison because it's a manufacturing side product of aluminum smelting from China, which has a great record for purity in their chemicals.
Okay, I think we're going to start with Mr. Tapia. Sure. Gotta get my glasses on. What have you done specifically to support water supply reliability and water quality excellence? And can you also talk about the future of Sulajul? Sulajul? Is that how you pronounce it? Suahuli. Okay, see? I don't even know. Suahuli.
Suli-Juli. Well, firstly, I'll ask for a definition of Sulahui. I'm not aware of what that is.
It's a reservoir. It's one of our reservoirs.
It's a reservoir.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm aware of Alpine and Kent, and it's a subject, obviously, I'd need to know a lot more about. When it comes to water conservation, I was fortunate enough to start up a property in San Rafael that was one of the first to use recycled water for the landscaping and all of the commodes. And it was a wonderful project. It's 33 North, and it was one of the first of its kind on the West Coast. I would want to see, working with public agencies such as planning commissions and permit boards, to integrate low flow and recycled and gray water programs into new permits for new housing. I think there should be individual meters put on all multifamily housing because when people start to have to pay their own bills, they tend to conserve more than if it's on a master meter and they get a flat fee. So those are things that I've done in the past.
The Sulahuli part I'll answer. What was the other part of the question?
What have you done specifically to support water supply reliability and water quality excellence?
Okay. Well, the water district has, first of all, the water district is always looking to resiliency and what we can do, not only in the face of droughts, but what we would do in the face of earthquakes or other disasters. We just completed a 2040 study that sets out every option we could imagine for handling those kinds of crises, as I said, ranging from a drought to earthquake that knocks out one of our dams or any of that sort of thing, with various options that we would have before us as opportunities to correct the situation or mitigate the situation. I think the point there is that the district perpetually is working on those kinds of problems. Again, it's not something that they respond to on an emergency basis. There's a plan out there. Okay? Thank you.
What have I done? Okay, so in the school district, we're the only districts that took up the lead money and did the lead testing of all our water fountains. And we also stopped using pesticides and herbicides in 2004. The water district continued to use those products until 2015 when Larry Bragman was elected. I also sat on the conservation committee created by Measure V, which was part of the Marin Municipal Water District, and we were charged with determining whether we could conserve our way out of it or build the pipeline to the Feather River. And my committee voted to stop the pipeline. Oh, 30 seconds more?
Yeah.
Oh.
Have
Where'd
at
I
it.
talk? Another thing I'd like to do is borrow from our great leadership there at Las Galinas, where they are planning and paying for low-interest loans on laterals. I'd like to see the district designing gray water systems, designing and financing in low-interest loans like the lateral program at Las Galinas for gray water systems for households.
It's a challenging question for me to answer because it's what I do every day, and I've only got 60 seconds. So I'll try not to speed talk. But on the water quality issue, I would say I have consistently supported increasing Marin's water quality. We are generally well above state and federal water quality standards. We have substantially expanded during my tenure our water quality testing. We test not only for what's required, but way beyond emerging chemicals of concern. I see this as a critical partnership with the community. I have spent thousands of hours in front of the State Water Quality Control Board advocating for more stringent water quality standards to protect people, fish, and wildlife. As far as water supply reliability, this is where I have to say I think I've put an enormous amount, I've had a tremendous impact on the district. We talked earlier about conservation and how much we have increased our water supply reliability since I have been on the board here by decreasing our, we've basically created another reservoir of water. We are far more drought resilient than we were when I was first elected in 2004 as a result of our efficiency experts. I'll just say this very last thing, which is that I was appointed to the state's Urban Advisory Group, which framed the recent legislation on efficiency that's now been enacted statewide.
I think we have time for one more question. This is from the audience. This is sort of what was addressed by the other water district. Marin Municipal Water District gets 25% of its water from the Eel Russian Rivers Complex. PG&E wants to sell its Potter Valley project that diverts Eel River water to the Russian River. Do you support purchase of Potter Valley project by Sonoma Water? And Jack.
Sure. That proposal, this is at least the second time around for that proposal. When I first went on the board in the 1990s, Sonoma County PG&E was talking about selling it at that time, and it didn't materialize then. I doubt seriously if it'll materialize then, but I think it's absolutely important that we protect our 22% of the water. I don't know that we necessarily have to rely on the Potter Valley and Sonoma County Water Agency to do that, but obviously there's a lot of interest there. There's an agricultural interest. There's a fish habitat on the Eel River, all of which have to be protected. So it's a complicated issue that I'm not prepared to make a call on it here tonight,
Yeah, I don't think we have much to say. We're down the food chain at MMWD for Sonoma Water. Personally, I would not support it.
I think the more that we can reduce our reliance on Russian River water, the better. I think the contract that we have in place is, it's important. It is right now, depending on the year, right around 20 to 25%. That doesn't. Having said that, I don't feel that we necessarily need to support that purchase. That's a decision for our sister agency to make. But I think that we become more resilient if we are more reliant on our local supplies than if we are relying on contracts. Given climate change, the water from Sonoma is going to become more and more controversial. It's going to become more and more. That the availability of that supply is going to become more and more variable over time. So, it's a challenging question because I don't know that it's appropriate for us to be determining whether or not Sonoma County should make this purchase. As a contractor, if they were turning to us to support that, I would not. I think that we need to be supporting the growing health and resilience of the fisheries in the Sonoma and Eel Rivers.
So, like Ms. Kohler, I agree with that. It's not our call to make. That's Sonoma County's, not ours. However, I think that there are realistic concerns about who needs the water. There's agricultural demands, there's environmental demands. And at the end of the day, we're going to start to see a reduction of our ability to collect water. So do we want to keep that door open if something comes our way to be able to have the opportunity to get some of that water? It's going to be a long way down the road. My feeling is that the lakes and streams need to be protected at nearly all costs. The habitats that we've destroyed over the years by damming, by not understanding the long-term impacts of what we do with human activity need to be fully understood before we start trying to take away water from a natural habitat. So I don't know if I support it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, it's at this time that we're going to do the caucus for MWPAC members. So if you're if you want to give your ballot to Greg, you may. If you want to wait for the caucus to make a decision, that's fine as well. Sometimes you can learn things from the caucus, so you might want to hang around and wait till that before you mark your ballot. Joby, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming.